Hello, I welcome you everybody to this special webinar. My name is Debashish Roy. I'm the Senior Network Analyst at the Indian Cybersecurity Solution, and today's topic is static versus dynamic routing. So we'll discuss what is the difference between the static routing and the dynamic routing. So static routing is statically configured, and the dynamic routing it is configured by some routing protocol that we know, but we'll dive deep into it that what is the exact difference between the static and dynamic. So let's begin. So what is the definition and purpose of the static routing? So static routing, it is a method where routes are manually configured in the router's routing table. So you are configuring the route manually from the source to the destination. And it is used for simple and stable network where the topology does not change. This is the key point, like that the destination network should not change much. Otherwise, you have to reconfigure the static route, and that is definitely a troublesome process because if there are too many static routes, definitely you have to remove it and again configure it. That would be very challenging for you. What are the configuration? Static routing is very straightforward. Like you have to configure the static routing. The network administrator specifies the destination network and the next hop IP, or the you can say the default gateway or the exit interface. Now the syntax varies based on the router's operating system and iOS, but is generally same. Like commonly involves commands that enter the global configuration mode and specify the routes. So this is a pretty straightforward process, you can say. What are the advantages and limitations? Like the primary advantage of static routing include low overhead, definitely because it is fast. So dynamic routing is a bit slow. So static routing is a bit fast. So definitely it has a low overhead, simplicity, and ease of implementation. Definitely it is there, but its limitation involve a lack of automatic route updates because it is not a dynamic protocol that is sending the routing update. It doesn't send any routing update. You are responsible for updating the routing table. So the scalability issues is complex because as the networks grow, then it is difficult to manage these networks, so many networks in the static routing. So you should go for the dynamic routing in that case. So what is the dynamic routing now? Dynamic routing utilizes routing protocols to automatically adjust routes in response to network changes. What does it mean? It means that if some network address has changed, so dynamic routing protocol has a responsibility to reflect that change in the routing table. Now routers communicate with one another to share routing information, and as and when the network topology changes, it automatically adjusts. Now, popular protocols are the OSPF, Open Shortest Path First. It is an open standard protocol. Border Gateway Protocol, the BGP. Then RIP, the Routing Information Protocol. It was for a long time a very popular protocol for Cisco. Then the EIGRP also. Then each has its own mechanisms for route discovery, metric calculation, and optimization. So what are the benefits and drawbacks? Dynamic routing provides several benefits such as automatic route updates, which means network changes are handled seamlessly. It supports scalable networks. However, drawbacks include increased complexity, potential security vulnerability, higher resource consumption because the CPU utilization is more here because the router has to process from say the n number of routes which is the best route. So if you compare, the main difference between static and dynamic routing involves their operational methodology. Like the static routing requires manual intervention, while dynamic routing automatically adjusts through protocols. So you can say the dynamic routing is a bit slower, but definitely if you are having too many destination networks, your network is scalable, then you have no option but to resort for the dynamic routing. But if your network is small, you can resort to the static routing. And use cases are ideal for small or stable networks, that is a static routing, where simplicity and control are preferred. And in contrast, dynamic routing is better suited for large fluctuating networks. And performance analysis of routing methods assess how efficiently and quickly data packets reach the destination. Static routing generally it is low latency, it is fast, but the dynamic routing protocol here you can say experience some transient delays because here you are using the routing protocol and it is for the WAN. The WAN will decide the whatever the speed that the dynamic routing protocol has, and it actually fluctuates with the topology. So the implementation wise, while implementing static routing, you have to ensure thorough documentation and testing is there to prevent configuration errors. And for dynamic routing, select the appropriate protocol because see, if you want to not have to have the say hop count limitation, you shouldn't choose the RIP protocol. And for optimum bandwidth, you should go for the OSPF, not the EIGRP, because EIGRP uses the least bandwidth. And troubleshooting techniques are also different. In case of static routing and dynamic routing, use diagnostic commands to check protocol neighbor states like the OSPF neighbor states, OSPF adjacencies, but it is not the in case of static routing. So scalability is also a consideration for the static routing. It poses a scalability challenge that I have already told you, and dynamic routing are designed to accommodate scaling through often automated updates. So you can see that these two routings are actually contrasting in nature, and static routing is also very easier to configure, but dynamic routing, the other case also, it is more suitable for the scalable networks. So now I can take you to the simulator. That is a Cisco packet tracer we have, and here I can configure static routing. Just give the IP. IP address say 20001, and you have to use the default mask. Ten zero zero two, and now you have to give the static root like IP root. Destination network is 20.0.0.0. Subnet mask, and the exit the next hop, that is the 10.0.0. I think let me see the IP address first one. 0 by 0 is 10, yes, and here the 0 by 0 is 10.0.0.2. Okay, so what you need to do, you need to have 10.0.0.2 here, and if I show you the routing table, show IP root, you will see that anyway the static root is not up yet. So let me again verify the IP addresses. Show IP interface brief. You can see that in fast Ethernet 0 by 0 is 10.0.0.1, and it is fast Ethernet 1 by 0, it is 20. Okay, so here it is 20, and here I think I will change the IP. 1 minute. Here the 0 by 0 is 10 and fastest 1 by 0 should be 30. So that way you have to troubleshoot. So I intentionally actually gave the same IP address to show you the troubleshooting method. See here, the first is that 1 by 0 is having the 20,001, the same IP. So definitely the static root cannot form here. So this way you have to troubleshoot. So you have to go to the interface F1 by 0 and you have to give no IP address. And then again assign the IP address, say this time 30,001. And now you go to router 0 and then you give no IP root and you remove the root like the 20 and give the IP root, say 30,000 that you have configured now, and the next sub would be 10,000. And now if you see show IP root, yes, you can see the static root that is 30,000 there. So this way you have to troubleshoot that if you have given the next hop correctly or the destination address correctly, otherwise you have to check and you have to do the recheck and you have to remove the IP address. So this way you have to do, and also on the router one, the same way you can do it. IP root is time 20,000, destination network, subnet mask, and the next hop IP or the default gateway would be 10,001 this time. See the routing table, and here you go. There is a static root. So S is for the static. So this is about the static routing. Again, you have to remove it. And also on the router one. Why? Because you need to configure the OSPF. Say router OSPF, the dynamic protocol process ID is 1, and the network you can specify the 30,000 wildcard 0.255, 255, 255, and area 0, and also the network 10,000 and 0.255, 255 by wildcard mask and network 10,000, yeah, 0, and network is 20, the LAN, the wildcard mask, and the areas. So this way you have to configure the route, but the thing is that the adjacency is not coming. If you see the show IP route, you see that no, you are not getting those step routes. Why? You have added 30,000, now it is gone because it takes some time, because the OSPF goes through certain processes for the adjacency, like say there are some stages like first is two-way, init, two-way, then exstart, exchange, loading, full. These are the states of the OSPF. So it takes some time. So don't think that if you have given the correct network or the correct wildcard mask, then this is not going to happen or the simulator has some problem. No, because it takes some time for the OSPF for the adjacency, because I have told you that dynamic routing protocol is a bit slower than the static routing. So if you see show IP route, you'll see the OSPF route, and also you can see the OSPF to see the specific OSPF route. and OSPF's AD value is 110 and the static root's AD value is 1. So you have to remove the static root in order to view the OSPF. Otherwise, if it's the static root is there, you will not be able to view the OSPF or any dynamic routing protocol rules, because AD value, as you know, that lower AD is always preferred. So you can go to the router 0 also and see the message has come. It is the full state now. Again, show IP root and the OSPF. You can see the OSPF. So ordinarily, you can use a loopback interface also if you do not want to use the fast Ethernet port. In case of fast Ethernet for testing, you can also use the loopback interface. So this is how you configure the static routing and also the dynamic routing. So I've discussed the two things about static routing and dynamic routing, the contrasting features of the routing protocol of Cisco, and I have discussed the theory. Also, I've shown you the practicals, and I hope that you'll be able to configure it now practically and also implement it in your enterprise networks. So these two routings are the pillars of the Cisco, and static routing is traditional and dynamic routing is a bit modern, you can say some advanced part, but both are very effective in routing management, and these are very essential for your CCNA 200301 as well as CCNP, NRC and ENCODE preparations. So I hope that you have got an immense knowledge about this and you have enjoyed this webinar. I thank you all for joining and watching this webinar, and I'll come with some next topic next day. Till then, keep studying and bye.